The starship Odyssey floated quietly through the endless darkness of space. Its sleek, silver body glimmered faintly under the light of a distant star. Inside, the crew worked in silence, their eyes fixed on their screens and instruments. The mission was clear: explore an uncharted planet that had been detected at the edge of a faraway galaxy. This was humanity's chance to prove itself among the stars. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood tall on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. He was a man of few words, but his presence commanded respect. His sharp blue eyes scanned the viewscreen ahead, watching as the planet slowly came into view. It was a strange world, with swirling clouds of green and purple wrapping around its surface like a cosmic blanket. Beside him, Lieutenant Lavra Hayes adjusted the ship's sensors, her fingers moving quickly over the controls. She was young, but highly skilled, and her calm demeanor helped keep the crew focused. "Captain," Lavra said, breaking the silence, "initial scans show signs of advanced technology on the planet's surface. There's definitely something or someone down there." Ryan nodded but didn't reply. He trusted Laura's judgment, but he also knew better than to jump to conclusions. Humanity had made contact with alien species before, and not all encounters had gone smoothly. Some aliens had welcomed humans with open arms, while others had seen them as a threat. This time, they needed to be cautious. As the Odyssey entered orbit around the mysterious planet, the crew noticed something unusual. A massive object began rising from the atmosphere below. At first, it looked like a cloud of shimmering metal, but as it drew closer, its true form became clear. It was a spaceship larger than anything the crew had ever seen. Its surface gleamed like liquid silver, reflecting the faint light of the nearby star. The design was unlike anything human engineers could create, and it seemed to radiate power. "Unknown vessel approaching," Ensign Daniel Carter announced, his voice tinged with nervousness. He was new to the crew and still learning the ropes, but he had already proven himself to be reliable. "It's hailing us, sir." Ryan raised a hand to signal for calm. "Put it on screen," he said, his voice steady and firm. A moment later, the main viewscreen flickered to life. Instead of showing the exterior of the alien ship, it displayed a holographic figure standing in the center of the bridge. The creature was tall and insect-like, with elongated limbs and a segmented body. Its glowing green eyes seemed to pierce through the screen, studying the humans with cold indifference. Two antennae protruded from its head, twitching slightly, as if sensing the air around it. "I am Vorthik," the creature said, its voice deep and raspy. "Emissary of the Zarnuk Empire." It paused, tilting its head slightly as if sizing up the humans. Then, without warning, it began to speak again, this time with a tone of mockery and disdain. "Primitive beings," it sneered. "You have ventured far beyond your capabilities. Your technology is laughable, your understanding of the universe infantile." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. No one expected the first contact with this alien race to begin with insults. Lavra glanced at Ryan, waiting for him to respond. But the captain remained silent, his expression unreadable. Vorthak seemed to take this as a sign of weakness. "Why do you not speak, human?" the alien demanded, its voice growing louder and more aggressive. "Are you too feeble-minded to form words? Or are you simply overwhelmed by the presence of a superior species?" Still, Ryan said nothing. His silence only seemed to fuel Vorthak's anger. The alien took a step forward, its glowing eyes narrowing. "Very well," it spat. "If you cannot defend yourselves with words, perhaps action will suffice." Before anyone could react, the alien ship unleashed a sudden burst of energy. Bright beams of light shot out from its hull, striking the Odyssey's shields with incredible force. The entire ship shook violently, sending several crew members stumbling. Alarms blared across the bridge, filling the air with a deafening noise. "Shields holding at 70%. Lavra shouted, her hands flying over the controls as she tried to stabilize the situation. Her heart raced, but she forced herself to stay focused. Panic would only make things worse. Ensign Daniel turned to Ryan, his face pale. "Captain, should we fire back? We can't just let them attack us." Ryan held up a hand, signaling for silence. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he continued to stare at the view screen, his eyes locked onto Vorthek's holographic form. The alien seemed to be enjoying itself, its mouth curling into what might have been a smirk. "You see?" Vorthek taunted. "Even now you hesitate. You lack the courage to stand against us. Perhaps your kind truly is as primitive as I suspected." The crew braced themselves for another attack, but Ryan remained calm. He wasn't ignoring the situation, he was thinking. Every move mattered now, and he couldn't afford to make a mistake. Vorthek's arrogance was evident, and Ryan knew that arrogance often led to mistakes. If they played their cards right, they might just have a chance. "Lavra," Ryan said finally, his voice low and measured, "keep monitoring their weapon systems. Look for any weaknesses or patterns in their attacks." He turned to Lieutenant Marcus Kane, the ship's weapons officer. "Marcus, prepare our defenses, but hold your fire unless I give the order." "Yes, sir," Marcus replied, nodding firmly. He trusted Ryan's judgment, even if the situation seemed dire. The captain had never led them astray before, and he wasn't about to start doubting him now. Meanwhile, down in the engineering bay, Chief Engineer Emily Ford worked tirelessly to reinforce the ship's shields. She was a no-nonsense woman with a knack for solving problems under pressure. Her team scrambled around her, following her instructions without question. "We're taking heavy hits up there," one of the engineers called out, pointing to the data streaming across a monitor. "If their next volley breaches the shields, we're done for." Emily gritted her teeth, her mind racing. "Reroute auxiliary power to the shield generators," she ordered, "and divert whatever's left to the plasma conduits. If we lose those, we'll be sitting ducks." Back on the bridge, the tension was palpable. The crew waited anxiously for Ryan's next move, but the captain showed no signs of panic. He stood perfectly still, his gaze fixed on the view screen. Vorthek's hologram loomed large, its glowing eyes filled with contempt. "You humans are predictable," the alien sneered. "You cling to your fragile ships and your pathetic weapons, believing yourselves to be masters of the stars. But you are nothing, less than nothing." Ryan's jaw tightened, but he still didn't respond. He knew that engaging Vorthek in a verbal battle would only play into the alien's hands. Words wouldn't win this fight, it would take strategy. Precision and a little bit of luck, the alien ship fired again, and once more the Odyssey rocked violently under the impact. This time, the shields dropped to 50%. Laura's fingers flew over the controls as she struggled to compensate. "Captain, we can't take much more of this," she warned, her voice strained. Ryan nodded, his mind working furiously. He had a plan forming, but it was risky. One wrong move and they'd be finished. Still, doing nothing wasn't an option either. He glanced at Marcus, then at Lavra, silently gauging their readiness. Both officers met his gaze with determination. They were ready to follow his lead, no matter what. Finally, Ryan spoke, his voice calm but commanding. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Lavra, plot a course that keeps us within range of their weapons, but unpredictable enough to throw off their targeting systems. Marcus, stand by to return fire on my mark." The crew sprang into action, their movements swift and precise. Ryan turned back to the view screen, his eyes locking onto Vorthek's smug expression. The alien thought it had already won, that much was clear, but Ryan knew better. Humanity had faced challenges before, and they had always found a way to overcome them. This time would be no different. The Odyssey's engines roared to life as the ship began weaving through the alien vessel's relentless attacks. Bright beams of energy streaked past, narrowly missing the hull as Lavra guided the ship with expert precision. Her hands moved quickly over the controls, plotting a zigzagging course that kept them just out of reach. The crew held their breaths, watching as the deadly blasts illuminated the darkness outside. "Shields holding at 40%, Lavra called out, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. She glanced at Ryan, who stood silently in the center of the bridge, his eyes fixed on the view screen. Vorthek's holographic form loomed large, its glowing green eyes filled with amusement. "You humans are amusing," the alien sneered. "Your feeble attempts to evade our weapons only prove my point. You are nothing more than insects scrambling for survival." Ryan still didn't respond. His silence infuriated Vorthak, but it also confused the alien. Why wasn't the human captain begging for mercy or trying to negotiate? Instead, he simply stood there, watching, waiting. It was unnerving, even for a being as arrogant as Vorthak. Ensign Daniel Carter leaned closer to Lavra, whispering urgently, "Shouldn't the captain say something? This guy's ripping us apart." Lavra shook her head slightly, her focus never leaving her console. "Trust me, Daniel. The captain knows what he's doing." She wanted to believe her own words, but deep down, she couldn't help feeling uneasy. Ryan's plan, if he even had one, was still unclear. In the engineering bay, Chief Engineer Emily Ford worked furiously to keep the ship running. Sweat dripped from her brow as she shouted orders to her team. The shields were failing faster than expected, and every hit from the Zarnok ship sent shockwaves through the Odyssey systems. Sparks flew from a nearby panel, forcing one of the engineers to duck out of the way. "We need more power to the shields," Emily barked. "Divert everything you can spare from non-essential systems. But if we do that, we'll lose life." "Support in some sections," another engineer protested. Emily didn't hesitate, then rerouted anyway. "We can survive without air conditioning for a while, but we won't last long if those shields go down completely." Her decision paid off moments later when another blast struck the Odyssey. The impact was weaker this time, thanks to the extra power boost. Still, the shields dropped to 30%. Emily clenched her fists, knowing they were running out of options. Back on the bridge, Ryan finally spoke. "Marcus, prepare to fire a warning shot across their bow." His tone was calm but firm, leaving no room for argument. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "A warning shot, sir, after what they've done," Ryan nodded. "Exactly. Let's show them we're not as helpless as they think." The weapons officer hesitated for a moment before nodding. He trusted Ryan's judgment, even if the order seemed strange. With careful aim, Marcus fired a single pulse of energy toward the alien ship. The blast wasn't strong enough to cause damage, but it was close enough to get their attention. Vorthak's hologram flickered slightly, its expression shifting from amusement to irritation. "What is this?" the alien demanded. "You dare attack us after we have shown you such mercy?" Ryan stepped forward, finally breaking his silence. "Mercy?" he repeated, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Is that what you call attacking an unarmed ship without provocation?" Vorthak tilted its head, studying Ryan with renewed interest. "So, the primitive human does speak after all. How quaint." Ryan ignored the insult. "We came here in peace," he continued. "But you chose hostility instead. If you want a fight, we'll give you one. But know this, humanity doesn't back down from a challenge." The alien let out a harsh laugh. "Brave words for someone whose ship is moments away from destruction. Very well, human. Let us see if your courage matches your arrogance." With that, the Zarnok ship unleashed another volley of attacks. This time, however, the Odyssey was ready. Lavra executed a series of sharp maneuvers, dodging most of the blasts while Marcus returned fire with carefully timed shots. The crew worked together like a well-oiled machine, each member playing their part perfectly. Despite their efforts, the strain on the Odyssey was becoming unbearable. The lights flickered intermittently and several consoles sparked dangerously. In the engineering bay, Emily struggled to keep up with the damage. One of the plasma conduits had overheated, threatening to explode if not cooled down immediately. "Get me a coolant line over here now," she shouted, pointing to a nearby engineer. "And someone check the backup generators. We can't afford any more failures." As the battle raged on, Ryan noticed something peculiar about the Zarnok ship's attacks. They followed a predictable pattern, firing in bursts of 3 before pausing briefly to recharge. It was a small detail, but it could make all the difference. "Lavra," Ryan said, turning to the lieutenant, "can you adjust our evasive maneuvers to exploit that pause?" Lavra nodded, already working on the calculations. "I think so, sir. If I time it right, we might be able to slip through their defenses during the recharge phase." "Do it," Ryan ordered. Then he turned to Marcus. "Prepare a concentrated burst of energy." When Lavar gives the signal, target their weapon systems directly. Yes, sir, Marcus replied, his fingers flying over the controls. The next few minutes felt like an eternity. The Odyssey danced through space, narrowly avoiding one attack after another. Just as Vorthak's ship paused to recharge, Lavar gave the signal. Now, she shouted. Marcus fired a powerful beam of energy straight at the Zarnuk ship's cannons. The impact caused a massive explosion, temporarily disabling their primary weapons. For the first time since the encounter began, the Odyssey had the upper hand. Vorthak's hologram flickered wildly, its expression twisting into one of rage. Impossible, the alien snarled. How could you? Ryan cut it off mid-sentence. You underestimated us, he said simply. That was your mistake. Before Vorthak could respond, the alien ship began retreating, pulling back into the planet's atmosphere. Its once confident demeanor had vanished, replaced by fear and uncertainty. The crew erupted into cheers, celebrating their hard-fought victory, but Ryan remained calm, his expression unchanged. He knew better than to celebrate too soon. The Zarnuk Empire was vast and powerful, and this skirmish was likely just the beginning. Still, for now, they had proven themselves capable of standing against even the most advanced adversaries. As the Odyssey limped away from the planet, its crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage. Emily supervised the repairs in the engineering bay, ensuring every system was brought back online. Lavra monitored the sensors, keeping a close eye on the planet below in case the Zarnuk decided to pursue them. On the bridge, Ryan stood alone, gazing out at the stars. Humanity had taken a significant risk today and won. But he also knew that the galaxy was full of dangers far greater than the Zarnuk. If humanity hoped to survive among the stars, they would need to learn from encounters like this one, and grow stronger with each challenge. For now, though, they had earned a moment of peace, and Ryan intended to use that time wisely. The Odyssey drifted quietly through space, its crew working tirelessly to repair the damage from the battle. The ship's once pristine hull was scarred with burn marks, and the faint hum of the engine sounded strained, like an injured animal trying to run. Despite the chaos of the past hours, the mood on board had shifted slightly. The crew felt a sense of pride. They had faced one of the most advanced alien species in the galaxy and survived. But Captain Ryan Mitchell wasn't celebrating. He stood on the bridge, staring out at the endless expanse of stars, his mind racing. Lieutenant Lavra Hayes approached him cautiously, holding a datapad in her hands. "Captain," she said softly, "I've analyzed the Zarnuk ship's energy signatures. Their weapons are far more powerful than anything we've encountered before." Ryan nodded, but didn't turn to face her. "And?" Lavra hesitated, unsure. "How much to say? Well, if they decide to come after us again, we might not be so lucky next time." Ryan finally looked at her, his expression calm but serious. "That's why we need to be ready. This skirmish wasn't just about survival, it was a lesson. We underestimated them at first, and they nearly destroyed us. Now it's our turn to think ahead." Lavra nodded, understanding what he meant. Humanity had always been resourceful, finding ways to adapt and overcome even when the odds were stacked against them, but this time they couldn't rely on luck alone. They needed a plan, a way to level the playing field. Down in the engineering bay, Chief Engineer Emily Ford was hard at work. Her team had managed to stabilize the ship's systems, but the repairs were far from complete. The shields were still weak, and several key components needed replacement parts they didn't have. Emily wiped sweat from her forehead as she examined a damaged plasma conduit. Sparks flew from the exposed wires, forcing her to step back for a moment. "Get me a containment field over here," she shouted to one of her engineers. "If this thing overheats again, we're going to lose main power." "Yes, ma'am," the engineer replied, rushing to comply. Emily sighed, leaning against a nearby console. She had been working nonstop since the battle ended, and exhaustion was starting to take its toll. But she couldn't afford to slow down, not now. If the Zarnuk Empire decided to pursue them, the Odyssey would need every ounce of strength it could muster. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Marcus Kane sat in the weapons bay, reviewing the ship's armaments. The Odyssey's weapons were decent, but they paled in comparison to the firepower of the Zarnok ship. Marcus ran simulations on his console, testing different strategies to maximize their effectiveness. He knew they couldn't win a direct confrontation. But maybe, just maybe, they could catch the enemy off guard. As he worked, Ensign Daniel Carter entered the room, looking nervous. "Marcus, can I talk to you for a second?" Marcus glanced up, surprised by the interruption. "Sure, what's up?" Daniel hesitated, glancing around to make sure no one else was listening. "Do you think we're really safe? I mean, that alien ship just retreated, but what if they come back with reinforcements? We barely made it out of there alive." Marcus set down his tools and leaned back in his chair. "Look, Daniel, I get it. This whole thing has everyone on edge. But panicking isn't going to help. The captain knows what he's doing. He wouldn't have gotten us this far if he didn't." Daniel nodded slowly, though he still looked uneasy. "I guess you're right. It's just, those aliens are so much stronger than us. What if we're not ready for whatever comes next?" Marcus placed a reassuring hand on the younger man's shoulder. "We'll figure it out. That's what we do. We adapt, we survive, and we keep moving forward. Trust me, we're tougher than they think." Back on the bridge, Ryan gathered his senior officers for a meeting. The room was small and dimly lit, but the tension in the air was palpable. Everyone knew the stakes. If the Zarnok Empire returned, the Odyssey would need to be prepared. "All right," Ryan began, his voice steady and firm. "Here's the situation. We've dealt them a blow, but they won't forget it. When they come back, and they'll bring everything they've got. Our job is to make sure we're ready." Emily spoke up first. "Sir, the ship's in bad shape. We've patched up the worst of the damage, but our shields are still weak, and we're low on critical supplies. If we don't find a way to reinforce our defenses, we're sitting ducks." Ryan nodded. "Understood. What options do we have?" Emily hesitated, then said, "There's a nearby asteroid field about 6 hours away. If we mine some raw materials, we might be able to fabricate new shield generators and weapon components. It's risky. We'll be exposed while we're out there, but it's better than waiting for them to find us." Ryan considered this for a moment. "Do it, but stay on high alert. We can't afford any surprises." Next, Marcus chimed in. "Sir, I've been running simulations on our weapon systems. Even with upgrades, we're still outgunned. But," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "what if we use their arrogance against them? They see us as primitive, so they won't expect us to pull off anything clever." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Go on." "We could rig a decoy system," Marcus explained. "Make it look like we've powered down or sustained critical damage. If they think we're helpless, they'll lower their guard. Then we hit them with everything we've got." The room fell silent as everyone processed the idea. It was risky if the Zarnok saw through the ruse. The Odyssey would be defenseless. But it was also their best chance. Ryan finally nodded. "It's a long shot, but it might work. Lavra, can you modify the ship's systems to create the illusion?" Lavra thought for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, sir. I can reroute power to non-essential systems and simulate a malfunction. But it'll have to be convincing. They're smart, and they'll be watching closely." "Then make it convincing," Ryan said firmly. He turned to Emily. "While Lavra works on the decoy, focus on reinforcing the shields and weapons. Every second counts." "Yes, sir," Emily replied, already mentally planning the next steps. As the meeting broke up, Ryan stayed behind, staring at the star map displayed on the wall. The Odyssey was deep in uncharted territory, surrounded by dangers they couldn't even imagine. But despite the odds, he felt a flicker of hope. Humanity had always thrived in the face of adversity, pushing beyond its limits to achieve the impossible. If they could harness that spirit now, they might just stand a chance. Hours later, the Odyssey reached the asteroid field. The rocky debris floated silently in the void, bathed in the faint light of a distant sun. Lavra guided the ship carefully through the maze of asteroids, avoiding collisions while scanning for valuable resources. Meanwhile, Emily and her team suited up and ventured outside, using portable mining equipment to extract minerals from the largest rocks. "It's slow going, sir," Emily reported over the coms. But we've found some promising deposits. With a little luck, we'll have enough material to patch up the shields and build a few new weapon modules. Good work, Ryan replied. Keep at it. Inside the ship, Marcus and his team worked on upgrading the weapon systems. They rewired circuits, recalibrated targeting arrays, and tested each modification thoroughly. The process was painstaking, but Marcus refused to cut corners. If they were going to face the Zarnok again, they needed every advantage they could get. As the hours passed, the crew began to feel a renewed sense of purpose. They were battered and bruised, but they weren't defeated. Each member of the Odyssey's crew played their part, contributing to the shared goal of survival. And at the center of it all was Ryan, whose quiet leadership inspired them to keep pushing forward. By the time the repairs were complete, the Odyssey was transformed. Its shields were stronger, its weapons more precise, and its systems primed for action. Laura's decoy program was ready to go, capable of fooling even the most advanced sensors. For the first time since the battle, the crew felt a glimmer of confidence, but Ryan knew better than to let his guard down. The Zarnok Empire was vast and ruthless, and their retreat had likely been temporary. Sooner or later, they would return, and when they did, the Odyssey would need to be ready. As the ship prepared to leave the asteroid field, Ryan addressed the crew over the intercom. Everyone, listen up. We've done good work today. We've repaired the ship, upgraded our systems, and prepared for whatever comes next. But this isn't over. The Zarnok underestimated us once, and we showed them what humanity is capable of. If they come back, we'll do it again, and we'll do it better. The crew erupted into cheers, their spirits lifted by Ryan's words. For now, they had earned a brief moment of peace. But as the Odyssey sailed toward the unknown, its crew remained vigilant, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The Odyssey moved silently through the darkness of space, its crew on edge as they prepared for the inevitable. The repairs and upgrades had given them a fighting chance, but everyone knew it might not be enough. The Zarnok Empire was vast, powerful, and relentless. If they returned, and Ryan was certain, the Odyssey would need to use every trick at its disposal. Lieutenant Lavra Hayes sat at her station on the bridge, her fingers flying over the controls. She had spent hours fine-tuning the decoy program, ensuring it would fool even the most advanced sensors. The plan was simple: make the Odyssey appear weak and vulnerable, then strike when the enemy least expected it. But executing the plan was another matter entirely. Captain, Lavra said, glancing over her shoulder at Ryan, the decoy system is ready. I've rerouted power to non-essential systems and simulated a malfunction in the shields and engines. If they scan us, they'll think we're sitting ducks. Ryan nodded, his expression calm but focused. Good work, Lieutenant. Now let's hope they take the bait. In the engineering bay, Chief Engineer Emily Ford supervised the final checks on the ship's systems. Her team had worked tirelessly to reinforce the shields and upgrade the weapons, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something might still go wrong. The Zarnok ship was far more advanced than anything humanity had ever faced, and no amount of preparation could guarantee victory. We're as ready as we'll ever be, sir, Emily reported over the comms. Shields are holding steady, and the weapons are online. But if they hit us hard enough, we'll still take damage. Understood, Ryan replied. Do what you can to keep the ship running. We'll handle the rest. As the Odyssey drifted closer to the edge of the asteroid field, tension filled the air. The crew exchanged nervous glances, their hands hovering over their consoles. Everyone knew what was at stake. If the plan failed, they wouldn't get a second chance. Hours passed, and the silence grew heavier. Then, without warning, the sensors picked up movement. A massive shape emerged from the shadows, a sleek, metallic vessel that gleamed like liquid silver. It was the Zarnok ship, larger and more intimidating than before. They're here, Lavra announced, her voice tight with anxiety. Scanners show multiple weapon systems powering up. Ryan stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the view screen. Activate the decoy program. Let's give them exactly what they expect to see. Lavra tapped a series of commands into her console, and the Odyssey's lights dimmed dramatically. The engine sputtered, emitting bursts of energy that made it look like they were failing. On the view screen, Vorthak's holographic form appeared once again, its glowing green eyes filled with triumph. "So, the primitive humans falter after all," the alien sneered. "You thought you could stand against the might of the Zarnuk? Empire, how foolish." Ryan remained silent, his jaw clenched tightly. He knew better than to engage Vorthak in a verbal battle. Every word the alien spoke was designed to provoke, to distract, to weaken their resolve. Instead, he focused on the task at hand, trusting his crew to execute the plan. Vorthak tilted its head, studying the Odyssey with cold indifference. "Your ship is damaged. Your defenses are crumbling. Surrender now, and perhaps we will grant you a swift end." Still, Ryan said nothing. His silence only seemed to infuriate the alien further. Vorthak raised one of its claw-like hands, signaling for the attack to begin. Bright beams of energy shot out from the Zarnuk ship, striking the Odyssey's shields with incredible force. The entire ship shuddered violently, sending several crew members stumbling, shields holding at 60%. Lavra shouted, her voice strained. "The decoy is working. They're falling for it." Ryan nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. "Hold steady. Don't fire until I give the order." The Zarnuk ship closed in, its weapons blazing. The Odyssey rocked under the impact, its hull groaning under the strain. Sparks flew across the bridge, forcing some of the crew to duck for cover. Ensign Daniel Carter clutched the edge of his console, his knuckles white with tension. "Captain, we can't take much more of this," Daniel cried, his voice trembling. Ryan didn't respond. He trusted Lavra and Emily to keep the ship together. Instead, he turned to Lieutenant Marcus Kane, who stood ready at the weapons station. "Marcus, prepare the main cannons. When I say so, target their weapon systems directly." "Yes, sir," Marcus replied, his hands hovering over the controls. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This was their one shot if they missed. The Zarnuk would tear them apart. On the view screen, Vorthak's hologram loomed large, its expression smug and confident. "You see, human?" The alien taunted, "Resistance is futile. Soon, your pitiful ship will be nothing more than dust." Ryan's eyes narrowed, but he still didn't speak. He waited, counting the seconds in his head. The Zarnuk ship fired again, and the Odyssey's shields dropped to 40%. Laura's fingers flew over her console, keeping the decoy program active despite the intense pressure. "Now!" Ryan barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. Marcus didn't hesitate. He unleashed a concentrated burst of energy straight at the Zarnuk ship's cannons. The impact caused a massive explosion, temporarily disabling their primary weapons. For the first time since the encounter began, the Odyssey had the upper hand. Vorthak's hologram flickered wildly, its expression twisting into one of rage. "Impossible!" the alien snarled. "How could you—" Ryan cut it off mid-sentence. "You underestimated us," he said simply. "That was your mistake." Before Vorthak could respond, the Odyssey unleashed another volley of attacks, targeting the Zarnuk ship's engines and shield generators. The alien vessel reeled under. The sudden assault, its once imposing presence shattered by the unexpected counterattack. Explosions rippled across its surface, sending debris flying into space on the bridge. The crew erupted into cheers, celebrating their hard-fought victory. But Ryan remained calm, his expression unchanged. He knew better than to celebrate, too. Soon, the Zarnuk Empire was vast and powerful, and this skirmish was likely just the beginning. Still, for now, they had proven themselves capable of standing against even the most advanced adversaries. As the Zarnuk ship retreated, its engines sputtering and its weapons disabled, Ryan turned to his crew. "Good work, everyone. You've done humanity proud today. But remember, this isn't over. There will be more challenges ahead, and we need to be ready." The crew nodded, their spirits lifted by Ryan's words. They had faced one of the most dangerous threats in the galaxy and survived. It wasn't just luck, it was skill, determination, and teamwork. And as the Odyssey sailed toward the unknown, its crew remained vigilant, ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. Down in the engineering bay, Emily and her team worked quickly to repair the remaining damage. The shields were holding steady, but the ship's systems were still strained from the battle. Sparks flew from a nearby panel, forcing one of the engineers to duck out of the way. "We need to reinforce these conduits before we run into any more trouble," Emily said, pointing to a damaged section of the wall. "Get me a containment field over here, and someone check the backup generators. We can't afford any more failures." "Yes, ma'am," the engineers replied, rushing to comply. Meanwhile, Lavra monitored the sensors, keeping a close eye on the retreating Zarnuk ship. Its movements were erratic, but it was still operational. She knew they hadn't destroyed it completely, and that meant it could come back stronger next time. "Captain," Lavra said, turning to Ryan, "they're pulling away, but I'm picking up signs of life support systems stabilizing." "They're not done yet," Ryan nodded, his expression grim. "Then we'll be ready. Keep scanning for any activity and alert me immediately if they change course." "Yes, sir," Lavra replied, returning to her console. As the Odyssey limped away from the battlefield, its crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage. Emily supervised the repairs in the engineering bay, ensuring every system was brought back online. Lavra monitored the sensors, keeping a close eye on the Zarnuk ship in case it decided to pursue them. On the bridge, Ryan stood alone, gazing out at the stars. Humanity had taken a significant risk today and won. But he also knew that the galaxy was full of dangers far greater than the Zarnuk. If humanity hoped to survive among the stars, they would need to learn from encounters like this one and grow stronger with each challenge. For now, though, they had earned a moment of peace, and Ryan intended to use that time wisely. The Odyssey drifted quietly through space, its battered hull a testament to the battle it had just endured. The crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage, their movements quick and purposeful. In the engineering bay, Chief Engineer Emily Ford supervised the final checks on the ship's systems. Her team had patched up the worst of the damage, but the strain of the fight was still evident. Sparks flew from a nearby panel as one of the engineers struggled to stabilize a power conduit. "Get that under control," Emily barked, pointing to the sparking wires. "If that thing overheats again, we're going to lose main power." "Yes, ma'am," the engineer replied, rushing to comply. Emily wiped sweat from her brow and leaned against the console, taking a moment to catch her breath. She had been working nonstop since the battle ended, and exhaustion was starting to take its toll. But she couldn't afford to slow down, not now. If the Zarnuk Empire decided to pursue them, the Odyssey would need every ounce of strength it could muster. On the bridge, Lieutenant Lavra Hayes monitored the sensors closely, watching for any sign of the Zarnuk ship. Its engines had stabilized, and though it was retreating, Lavra knew better than to let her guard down. The alien vessel was still operational, and its weapons could come back online at any moment. "Captain," Lavra said, turning to Ryan, "they're pulling away, but I'm picking up faint energy signatures." "They might be trying to regroup." Ryan nodded, his expression calm but focused. "Keep an eye on them. If they change course or power up their weapons, alert me immediately." "Yes, sir," Lavra replied, returning to her console. Ryan stood silently in the center of the bridge, his sharp blue eyes scanning the view screen. The Zarnuk ship was growing smaller in the distance, its once imposing presence reduced to a speck of light, but Ryan knew better than to celebrate too soon. The Zarnuk Empire was vast and ruthless, and this skirmish was likely just the beginning. Still, for now, they had earned a brief moment of peace. As the hours passed, the crew began to relax slightly. The immediate threat had passed, and the adrenaline that had fueled them during the battle was slowly fading. Ensign Daniel Carter sat at his station, his hands trembling slightly as the reality of what they had just faced sank in. "Marcus," Daniel said, glancing over at the weapons officer, "do you think we'll ever see them again?" Marcus shrugged, his expression thoughtful. "Probably. The Zarnuk don't strike me as the type to give up easily. But if they do come back, we'll be ready." Daniel nodded slowly, though he still looked uneasy. "I guess you're right. It's just, those aliens are so much stronger than us. What if we're not ready for whatever comes next?" Marcus placed a reassuring hand on the younger man's shoulder. We'll figure it out. That's what we do. We adapt, we survive, and we keep moving forward. Trust me, we're tougher than they think. Back in the engineering bay, Emily and her team worked to reinforce the ship's shields and weapons. The upgrades they had installed during the battle had held up well, but there was still room for improvement. Emily's mind raced with possibilities ways. To make the Odyssey faster, stronger, and more resilient, we've rerouted auxiliary power to the shield generators, one of the engineers reported. They should hold steady even if we take another hit. Good, Emily said, nodding. Firmly, now focus on the plasma conduits. If we can boost their efficiency, we might be able to increase the output of our weapons. Yes, ma'am, the engineer replied, already getting to work. Meanwhile, Ryan gathered his senior officers for a debriefing. The room was small and dimly lit, but the tension in the air was palpable. Everyone knew the stakes. If the Zarnuk Empire returned, the Odyssey would need to be prepared. All right, Ryan began, his voice steady and firm. Here's the situation. We've dealt them a blow, but they won't forget it. When they come back, and they'll bring everything they've got. Our job is to make sure we're ready. Lavra spoke up first. Sir, I've been monitoring their movements. They're retreating, but I don't think they're done. If anything, this skirmish has probably made them angrier, Ryan nodded. Agreed. Which means we need to stay sharp. Emily, how are the repairs coming along? Emily hesitated, then said, We've stabilized the shields and reinforced the weapons, but the ship's still not at full strength. We'll need time to fully recover. Ryan considered this for a moment. Then we'll find somewhere safe to hide while we regroup. Lavra, scan for any nearby planets or asteroid fields. We need a place to lay low until we're ready to face them again. Yes, sir, Lavra replied, already typing commands into her datapad. As the meeting broke up, Ryan stayed behind, staring at the star map displayed on the wall. The Odyssey was deep in uncharted territory, surrounded by dangers they couldn't even imagine. But despite the odds, he felt a flicker of hope. Humanity had always thrived in the face of adversity, pushing beyond its limits to achieve the impossible. If they could harness that spirit now, they might just stand a chance. Hours later, Lavra found a suitable location, a small, uninhabited moon orbiting a distant gas giant. Its rocky surface provided natural cover, and its magnetic field would help mask the Odyssey's energy signature. The crew breathed a collective sigh of relief as the ship settled into orbit around the moon. Good work, Lieutenant, Ryan said, patting Lavra on the shoulder. This should buy us some time. Yes, sir, Lavra replied, smiling faintly. But I'll keep monitoring the sensors, just in case. Do that, Ryan said firmly. And tell the rest of the crew to get some rest. We've earned it. As the Odyssey hid among the shadows of the moon, the crew took the opportunity to recover. Emily and her team continued working on the ship's systems, making improvements wherever they could. Marcus tested the weapons, ensuring they were ready for the next encounter. And Lavra kept a close eye on the sensors, watching for any sign of the Zarnuk ship. For now, the Odyssey was safe. But everyone knew it wouldn't last. The Zarnuk Empire wasn't the type to forgive or forget, and their retreat was likely only temporary. When they returned, the Odyssey would need to be stronger, smarter, and more prepared than ever. On the bridge, Ryan stood alone, gazing out at the stars. He thought about the battle they had just fought, the risks they had taken, the lives they had saved, and the lessons they had learned. Humanity had faced countless challenges throughout its history, and each one had made them stronger. This was no different. We've proven ourselves today, Ryan said softly, almost to himself. But the galaxy is full of dangers far greater than the Zarnuk. If we want to survive, we'll need to keep pushing forward. As the Odyssey rested in the shadow of the moon, its crew remained vigilant, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had faced one of the most dangerous threats in the galaxy and survived. It wasn't just luck, it was skill, determination, and teamwork. And as long as they stayed united, they would continue to overcome whatever obstacles came their way. The Stars shimmered brightly in the distance, a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the endless possibilities it held. For now the Odyssey was safe. But Ryan knew better than to let his guard down. The galaxy was unpredictable, and danger could come from anywhere. Still, as he stood there watching the stars, Ryan felt a sense of pride. Humanity had taken its first steps into the unknown, and though the journey ahead would be difficult, he knew they were ready. They had faced the Zarnik and emerged victorious. And if they could do that, they could face anything. The Odyssey sailed silently through the darkness, its crew united by a shared goal, survival. And as long as they stayed true to that goal, they would continue to thrive among the stars.